Welcome to the JD Bunkis podcast. Troy Stecher coming up on the show in about 10 minutes. Well, it's coming up whenever I throw it away because it's a taped interview. Yesterday, I missed seeing the quotes from Leafs practice because I was waiting to talk to Troy Stecher once he stepped off the ice, and I was recording during the time in which the players spoke to the media. Good of Austin Matthews to speak to the media. Didn't do it Saturday night, but decided that yesterday was time to do so. I don't normally read all the stuff from practices, and frankly, even when it comes to post-game stuff, I do Leafs talk, and we've got these great producers, Luke and Christian, and they will rifle into our chat, into our group chat, the odd time where someone says something fairly interesting, but most of the time, and especially this season, it's basically just been when Berube is giving an answer about someone's injury, right? We go, okay, this is the update, whether it's been Wool or OEL last week or Tanev, go on down the line. Carlo, it's been a murderer's row of injuries. But for the most part, I've just grown accustomed to not really getting anything from the Toronto Maple Leafs when it comes to transparency with the media and by proxy, the fans. Because I know some of you listening to this right now who are staunch defenders of, I guess, PR firms. I listen, I watch it for the games. I don't watch it for what these guys say afterwards, but I do find that it makes it more compelling when you understand the people involved a little better. When you get a sense of who these guys are a little bit more. That's just me personally. I guess that's not for everyone, but I really enjoyed this chat with Troy Stecher. And the reason why I want to talk to him is because he had shown a few inklings of, well, I'm going to open up and I'm going to say how I really feel about something. I went, oh, that's interesting. There's not too many guys that do that. There's a lot of players here in this market specifically and in others, but Toronto has been, it's hard to say one of the worst when I can't speak about every market with the same level of understanding, but I would imagine, here's my guess, is that hard to imagine a lot of places being as fortified when it comes to what they want to give up from a personality, transparency, honesty, forthcoming, whatever synonym you want to use that the Toronto Maple Leafs have been. So I don't usually get too wound up about this. I do a show after the end of the year when they lose in the postseason, and I try to go through some of the stuff guys say, and it usually bothers me. And it's a bit of a vent session because most people just want a little bit of accountability, right? I've said this on my show before, but I learned that lesson in grade 10 when I got in a fight and I didn't take accountability for it. The other kid did, and he got off basically scot-free, and I was punished. And I had a great outdoor ed teacher. His name was Jeff Teasdale, and he taught me about that you keep deflecting. You keep putting it on other people. It's always yeah, but with you rather than I'm sorry. And I don't know, maybe it's that. I see it. I saw it in myself, too, when I was even younger in my career. I don't think I took accountability for a lot of things. It's like an evolving journey in your life. People are defensive. You're not going to get the best reaction from people every single day. So for the most part, I try, many of you probably disagree, not to nitpick with this stuff and go, all right, it's a slog. It's 82 games. It's a lot. And yeah, having to answer questions multiple times a week about the same topic, I'm sure is frustrating. Like, I can relate to that. Things have gone overall well during Austin Matthews' tenure as a Maple Leaf. But there have been a lot of brutal defeats that I'm guessing weigh on the group when it comes to the way that they are perceived and the way that they are covered and the way that they feel they're treated. So fine. But today I'm pretty frustrated. Today I'm fairly annoyed. And I'm annoyed because when I finished the Stecher interview and I went about my day and kind of did some interview prep for Dallas Braden, who's on the show later today, kind of got into my bubble of, all right, I got the Raptors game tonight, which I got a lot of positive thoughts on later in the show. I stayed up a little too late watching the Rockets. Maybe I'm just cranky because I stayed up too late watching that Rockets-Nuggets game. But finally, it trickles into my news feed. I just happened to catch that William Nylander is going to be joining the top line with Austin Matthews and with Matthew Nice. This after William Nylander, who was sick last game, Craig Berube has said, so that's why he didn't play the final 6 minutes of the hockey game. He just didn't think that he was going. He didn't think that he was well, so he decided to sit him. Sure, whatever. But Nylander had just had a game the other night against the Sharks where he had one of his better performances recently. Didn't close the game particularly well. They lost to the Sharks in overtime, and he had a hand in that. But they kind of found something down the lineup. It was, hey, put him with Nick Waugh, put him with Dakota Joshua, and those guys actually performed well together. And a lot of people have been starving for the idea of spread some talent around and see if these guys can drive separate lines. And for the most part, I think you get what you get with John Tavares. And that you put different players around him, and yeah, he's going to have some better games. Some nights he's not going to have it as much, feel as imposing offensively, but overall you kind of expect a similar consistency. Nylander was really good. He had a couple of points. He drove a lot of offense. He set up a beautiful assist that was basically a play in the offensive zone completely created by him. He created another play where he drew a penalty that was late in the hockey game where they got an opportunity to score on the power play. He was just kind of buzzing. And I saw this move yesterday, and I immediately went to go see what the coach had to say about it and what the discussion was around this. Because, as most of you know, there is a growing conversation about Austin Matthews. I'm sure you see it online. I'm sure you feel it in your households. I'm sure you're talking about it with your friends. I know if my DMs, which are not perfect, but if my DMs are any indication of what people are talking about with this hockey team right now, Austin Matthews is in the center of it. This is something that happened all last season, wasn't the same guy, but everyone dismissed it with, hey, he's hurt. He's got a mystery injury. We're going to try to respect it. He wants his privacy, blah, 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 blah. He came back for the Four Nations. He actually played his best hockey during the Four Nations. And the rest of the year, he was never the same, including the playoffs where he wasn't really scoring goals, and you had a large portion of the fan base defending him to the hilt about his defensive play, which, fine, whatever. We get into this year, and the Leafs are confident that Matthews is going to have an FU season, that he is going to be healthy, and that he is prepared for the loss of Mitch Marner and ready to put the health stuff behind him, that he had a bad back, and it's all sorted now. You're going to see the Matthews of old, or maybe even a better version of Matthews. And so far this season, that has just not been the case. And there's all these theories that have been kicked around, right? Is how much of this was Marner? How much of this is that he's got injuries that are just going to follow him now for the rest of his career? He's only 29 years old, but maybe he's just not going to be the same guy physically. The shot has been largely absent from where it's been in the past. The metrics across the board are down, including his defensive metrics. He's struggling. And I don't want to say the first time he's in the eye of the storm, because that's happened during the playoffs before. But this is the first time where it's felt, to me anyways, anecdotally, that a lot of Leaf fans, even the defenders of Austin Matthews, are looking at him going, yeah, we're going to need a little bit more than this. What is happening right now? Is it the coach? Is it the Marner thing? Is it your injury? Like, okay. you don't really get any answers. And I'm not expecting them, frankly, because that's who Austin Matthews has been. He's been very uh, guarded. He plays everything very cool. He plays everything very dismissive. It's very infrequent where you see a version of him that is uber accountable and very transparent, just who he is. And part of that, I think, has worked because it's been the same thing as Nylander, where when the criticisms are happening, you want to feel as though these guys aren't letting too much of it get to them. That's how I feel about it personally. Like, I want to be able to talk about these guys and criticize these guys, but you're kind of hoping that it doesn't rattle someone, that they're not reading their own press clippings. And for the most part, you kind of feel like Matthews has been one of those dudes who isn't searching his name on social media, isn't asking friends and family to parse through and go through everything every media member says and put together a ledger about who said what when. That said, yesterday was annoying. So I watched some of Kipper and Bourne yesterday, and they brought up how Berube called out the leadership core. And listen, that's Austin Matthews. That's William Nylander. That's John Tavares. That's Morgan Riley, right? Like, am I missing somebody here that you really feel like maybe it would be Chris Tanev, but he's not playing? I don't think Matthew Nyes is quite in that category yet. But overall, it was a way of, I thought anyways, singling out two guys in particular in Matthews and Nylander. And probably a bit more Matthews. And Matthews deflected and he turned the answer into something about we can all be better. And Bourne was making a pretty good point about, hey, this is your leader and he's got to be able to try to say something right now. And then I look at the quotes from yesterday at practice and they bothered me. So Berube says, overall, I'm not seeing enough from his line in general. That line being obviously Matthews' line. And I can't help but be frustrated with just, okay, so the solution is to put William Nylander up there. The solution for Austin Matthews, who, well, this is a salary cap league. I'm not going to apologize for bringing up guys' salaries. Austin Matthews is one of the highest paid players in the NHL. He's got to be able to drive a line or at least they're screwed. And the solution for trying to get that line going is to plunk down another $11 million player next to Austin Matthews with Matthew Nyes in order to get that line going. That doesn't really feel like a good solution at this point, especially when this has always been the case. Oh, he's kind of struggling. Well, I guess we got to put him with more talent. It's never, hey, dig yourself out of this. Hey, find a way to make it work with someone lesser. It's always, well, you got to get this guy more. So I don't like that. I don't know if many people do. Like, could the line be dominant? Could it work out? Maybe. But as of this very moment, it's not exactly the solution that you really want to see. Is Austin Matthews have to have the two most expensive wingers on the team, both on his line. But then there was this. Austin Matthews was asked directly about his game, how he's feeling about it. His answer was, quote, "It's fine. It's been a grind lately trying to string together points and wins. We've done a decent job of that over the last 2 games. Some of the details and execution slipped a little bit in the third period. Simple things we want to clean up, but obviously these games are really important." You're being asked about you. You're the captain of the team. I don't think it's too much to ask that you grab the bull by the horns a little bit here and open up and just say, I've got to be better. I'm not playing up to the standard that I have played to for most of my career. I'm playing in these games. I'm healthy. I've got to find a way to produce more offense. Plain and simple. And the reason why I do think that this is important, and I'm guessing, again, there are people who disagree. It's the idea that in order for you to move forward, you have to understand the problem. This goes to anything. This is what accountability is supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be punitive. You're not supposed to be accountable simply so that people, you feel bad about yourself. You hang your head and you go, I'm sorry, I did the thing and it's all me and it's all my fault and I'm so bad. That's toxic. Do you ever have someone that does that to you where they do something wrong and then they way over apologize and you go, whoa, wait, now you're kind of putting this on me. Now you've made a mistake and you're not actually being accountable for it. You're overdoing it with this kind of faux apology dance. And now people are supposed to kind of comfort you. That's not the point. Nobody wants that. They want accountability so that you can show that there will be signs from you personally that things are going to change. And when Matthews continues to do this whole thing about we, I don't view that as like him being a leader and involving the group. I view that as a deflection of what an issue is right now, which is that the best player on the team, the leader of the team, the guy that they slapped the captaincy on, is not taking enough personal accountability for what his play has been lately, which is not great. And yeah, it's been discussed because there's a million shows in Toronto. There's a ton of coverage. But I don't think it's really been unfair. I don't think that I see hot takes percolating about Matthews constantly. I know that the fans have them, but for the most part, I think it's been relatively calm given the significance of this drop-off. How steep the cliff has been for Austin Matthews. The coverage has been kind of friendly, and part of that is because I'm guessing some media members are like myself, where you look at it and go, man, he's been so special his entire career. Could it really be gone at 29? I can't believe that. I'm not advocating for trading Austin Matthews in the offseason right now. I think that that's kind of that's the sort of stuff where you go, come on, what are you going to do? Like, you really going to make that move right now, today? Like, you're not doing it in season, obviously, but even entertaining the thought at this point feels way too, like you're getting way too ahead of yourself. But is it too much for the guy that they gave the captaincy to address the media on Saturday night after a bad loss? I would say no. Is it too much to ask that guy to just simply say, I need to be better, or I haven't been quite myself and I need to find that again? I'm frustrated with the way that I'm playing, the same as you guys. Like, these seem like very simple things. And the fact that he keeps deflecting tells me that he's not really getting it. That's your leadership structure. When Berube says that he needs more from those guys, when he's saying he needs more from that line, when he's putting William Nylander up with you, where is the pride to prove people wrong with your play, but also where is the just innate desire to feel some level of wanting to connect with the people who support you and who watch you? I just don't get it. I really don't. I know that the dismissive answer is just simply, what do you expect him to say? That's the most boring thing ever. And again, I think that, PR schools are cranking out far more students now than journalism programs are. There's a good reason for that. They've done a great job. They've done a great job on selling people the idea, especially in sports and other places in the world, that there doesn't really need to be accountability, that it's actually you, the crazy person, for asking for these kind of things. But man, oh man, it is really starting to reach a boiling point here. Like, we're heading into Christmas. He's had some time off this year with the injury. The team has not been great. They look like they turned a corner a week ago. They'd stacked together some wins. They were playing a little bit better as a team. They were certainly better defensively and have been up until that Oilers game, where I think they kind of got sucked into the Oilers style of play. But man, obviously, if you just go out and play well, it's going to change a lot, and then people are going to expect less of you when it comes to the off-ice stuff. But where things are going poorly, I just don't think it's like, leaders are in those positions because they're supposed to be able to handle the stresses of it, take accountability for themselves, and preach that to others. They're not supposed to be the ones that just deflect, defer, and take the side door out. Anyway, had a great chat with Troy Stecher. I taped it yesterday, so if you're watching on YouTube, and you're going to see me now in my office. Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman. First question, Troy. Are you aware of the fastest growing fan club in Toronto, the fan club Troy's Boys? And are you worried that it will go to your head?
No, it's the first I've heard of it. It's pretty funny, but no, I definitely will try to not let it get to my head. I've had a kind of a similar nickname when I was playing in Vancouver. It was Troy from Richmond. So it's funny how these names take a life of their own.
Yeah, man. You've got a really good approval rating in the city of Toronto to start, which, is awesome for you. It's been exciting. I think that you arrived kind of just at the right time in your career, but also for what this team needed. And you started with this interview in one of your first games. It was between the intermissions. It was you and Mark Masters. And you talked about basically you were just really candid about this being your seventh stop in the NHL and playing with a level of desperation or appreciation. And I'm curious, what that actually looks like for you on a day to day and whether it's sustainable.
Um, I mean, yeah, I was just speaking the truth. It is my seventh stop in my 10th year. I got traded 3 years in a row, so there's multiple ways you could look at it. For myself, I always try to look at the positives, and through those situations, I felt like it wasn't so much being, oh, you're not wanted anymore. It's actually the opposite. You were wanted. A
Mhm.
team trying to strive for the playoffs is acquiring you to help them make that push. So, but at the same time, you obviously have some doubt that creeps in your mind on why you're the person that continually gets bounced around. But yeah, at the end of the day, just being true to who I am and not wavering from that. And that's just a guy that takes a lot of pride in trying to have a really good attitude at the rink around my teammates and my coaching staff. And I try to work extremely hard in practice and throughout games. And that's basically the gist of it. And then I kind of try to let the rest do the talking for me. But yeah, just a guy that, prides himself on his work ethic and his attitude.
Well,
So
I will.
to answer your question, I'll
Yeah.
just finish. I do think that's sustainable because that's just who I am.
Yeah, I think that. So whenever the Leafs get a new player, you try to, as somebody in my position, sort of solicit around the league for whatever contacts you have about a guy, right? Like, hey, what's the word? And you try to get like off the record commentary on certain players. And yours came back like universally that this is a guy who shows up consistently with an effort level and with an attitude that is overwhelmingly positive. And yeah, I do think that during this time where the Leafs got off to a slow start, a difficult start, for a guy like you to be injected into the room obviously has mattered. But it's the desperate play too, right? Where you have, you like you said, you want to be yourself. You want to control the things that you can control. But I do wonder if there's been almost an added urgency in your game. Like if you feel like you were more letting it hang loose and playing free, or if there has been an added urgency when you've been on the ice.
I don't think so. I think it's probably just added ice time and
Yeah.
opportunity. I don't know it kind of works both ways. Sometimes when your minutes are down, like when I was playing at Edmonton, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, it's just kind of the role I was in and the situation I was in. We had a really deep decor at that time. So when you play kind of 13 to 15, sometimes you have lulls in your game. You can overthink your mistakes. You kind of lose your confidence. Where the other side of it is when you're continuing playing, you don't have that time to kind of sulk on the bench. You got to prepare, you got to catch your breath, you got to go out there and just do a job. So I think just opportunity and ice time that has been provided to me has definitely helped my individual game, which I feel up to this point, besides scoring on my own net, I've helped our group.
Yeah, no, I think you absolutely have. And your minutes have gone up a lot, dude. Like, and you've done this before in your career. You had this in Vancouver as well. And that actually makes a lot of sense, being able to kind of play through those mistakes and you don't have as much time to sit through lulls in your game when you're being asked to play 24 minutes a night. But just from your personal standpoint, has there been maybe a moment of reflection where you're going, man, I was playing those 13, 15 minutes a night in Edmonton and I was struggling for my role. And all of a sudden I'm in Toronto, one of the biggest markets, if not the biggest market in hockey, and I'm playing 25 a night, like how quickly this thing can change and how kind of surreal it is.
Zero. No, honestly, not. I don't want to be rude to answer your question, but I don't
No.
feel that way. Like I feel like I've always just continually tried to be. I continually harp on, and um, I believe that. Yeah, sorry, my D coach is barking over my shoulder.
That's okay. You do your thing.
Um, just I truly believe in karma, and if you put in the effort and you treat people the right way, then odds are things are going to work out in your favor. So there could have been moments maybe in Edmonton where I could have gone and had a meeting with the coaching staff and stressed, my frustration at different times, but I've never done that. And I feel because of that, I've been put into this situation where I've been given the opportunity that I've always kind of wanted. So very thankful for that. But yeah, the NHL is, not to change your question, but the NHL is a tough league, and something I talk to my agent about is trying to survive this league. It constantly feels like they're always trying to find the next best player, and how are they going to improve their team on each and every day? So you got to find a way to add value to whatever team you're on, and that's just kind of the mindset I've always had as a player.
Yeah. Listen, you can change any of the questions however you want to answer. Like just do you. Like, yeah, the more transparency, the absolute better. So yeah, you come here though, and it's just being thrown immediately into the deep end. And when you're talking about conversations with coaching staffs in terms of role or what was expected of you, what does that look like for a guy that's claimed off of waivers and then immediately is playing again the role that you are playing?
Honestly, there wasn't too many conversations when I got here. Obviously, this is my 10th year in the league, so I know a lot of guys around the league. You kind of know on which teams are kind of clicking, which teams are going through injury problems, who's looking for, some more depth, who's looking for kind of a scoring winger to say. So when I got claimed by Toronto, obviously Tanev was one of my groomsmen, a really close friend of mine. I knew he was out. Brandon Collar was out. They're both righties. So I kind of knew there was an opportunity for me to come in as a right-handed shot defenseman and play important minutes. So the message from the staff when I got here was just be myself and go play. And that's all it's ever been since then. Like I've watched some film with them and they've been impressed with what I've been able to do. There's some areas they want me to clean up that they've, pointed out through different clips and teaching clips. So um, the message is more just this is our systems. This is where you're going to be during these situations on the ice, and then just go play from there. So very thankful they didn't overcomplicate things.
Yeah. How important was having Tanev here just as a guy that you could bounce things off of during a move like this?
Yeah, really important. I kind of been lucky. Like my first time I got traded, I went from Detroit to LA, and my deep partner in Vancouver for 4 years was Alex Edler, and he was playing in LA. The
Mhm.
following year, got traded from Arizona to Calgary, and Chris Tanev was there. So I played with him for 4 years, like I said. So I had him. So same situation here. I come here, I have Tanny, somebody that my family's close with his family, away from the rink. Our wives are really close friends. Spend time with his kids on days off. So it just having that familiarity and essentially a family member in the same city you are, it's huge. It takes your mind away from the game when you need it to. And at the same time, when you need to let something off your chest, you have somebody there that can understand the situation you're in. So, yeah, just super thankful for the person that he is and thankful to call him a friend.
Yeah, no, that's great. And honestly, I know again, since you've done this a few times in terms of changing some teams, I'm sure you get used to kind of some of the beats of it where you go like, all right, I'm going to do this and going to play my game, focus on what I can control. But yeah, having someone who can just kind of vouch for you and let you settle in a little bit more quickly in terms of forging some of those relationships has to be a big, helpful part of that transition as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure the staff probably talked to him too
Mhm.
when they put in the claim. Hey, Tanny, you obviously know this guy. What can we expect? And um, into that, like sometimes I feel like just based on my stature, I think people would probably assume I'm an offensive guy. So having a guy like Tanny here who knows my game truly can, before I step on the ice, like, hey, like this guy's not going to put up a point a game. Don't expect that just because when he walks in, he looks like he's 12 years old and he's only 5'9". But this kid's going to compete and he'll defend. So, yeah, just thankful to have Tanny in my corner. Like I said, just very thankful.
You outed yourself as 5'9" because you're listed at 5'10".
That's all right. You always add an inch and 10 pounds.
Do you feel like that's changing in the game now, or like is it going back the other way in terms of the size? Because I will say this, man, you don't notice your size as much on the ice because you play bigger than you are.
Um, I don't know. That's a good question. I do think the most part our league is in a sense a copycat league.
Hmm.
Obviously, I think when somebody wins the cup, odds are most teams are going to look at their DNA and what made them successful and probably try to replicate that. So I just feel like it's trends. Um, just for example, like if the Vancouver Canucks won the Stanley Cup last year, I'm sure a lot of people would be like, "Oh, you got to go find a player like Quinn Hughes, an offensive, like dynamic, smaller player." But some teams don't believe in that, and they like having all D men over 6 feet. So I just feel like it's trends and personal preference. But at the end of the day, you just got to go out there and do your job. It's cheesy and it's cliche, but it's like the size of the dog in the fight doesn't matter. It's the size of the fight in the dog, and that's something I've always just kind of tried to live by.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that you've been able to play in so many Canadian markets too, though, because I do think there is a different level of fan appreciation for that element that you're talking about. I think hockey fans in general, like, and not to discount American hockey fans who see that, but that it really resonates in a place like this. And that's why, again, we're just a little worried about it going to your head with Troy's boys because people do care about the fight of the dog.
No, I actually
I
love that aspect of it. I think you're bang on.
yeah.
Like it, I do know some players around the league that probably wouldn't love the pressure and kind of the media attention that you get in Canada, but growing up a Canadian kid, watching Hockey Night in Canada every Saturday, it's something you kind of dreamed of being a part of. So I fully embrace playing in a Canadian market. It's something I think every Canadian kid wants to be a part of.
So I know you're short on time, so I'll wrap this thing up. But when you're talking about, hey, being fortuitous in terms of situations that you've landed in, right? And having guys that were there for you, my understanding is that you actually skated with McCabe over the summer. Is that right?
We skated for a week together at the University of Wisconsin with their men's hockey team.
So what, like, it's pretty, I don't know, it's like kismet that you end up all of a sudden playing on a pairing with a guy that you ended up, had you known him before then?
Not personally. Obviously, a lot of respect for who he is, knew who he was. I played against him in college my freshman year. I was at North Dakota. He was at Wisconsin. Yeah, so the summertime he goes back there. My wife happens to be from there, and we both obviously reached out to their coach looking for ice, and it happened the same week we did that. We were both in town, so yeah, we skated together, got to know each other. So that part of it coming here made it a lot more easier. We kind of had a good laugh about that.
Well, I was going to say, do you feel as though that has actually had an impact on the early chemistry that the two of you guys have together?
I hate to say it, I'm going to say no.
Okay. Yeah.
We would maybe did 3-4 drills, and then we scrimmaged against a college hockey team. So,
Okay.
I guess in a way, maybe a little bit, just vocally communicating wise, not as timid. Kind of got past that awkward, introduction phase because we had done it in the summer. So, besides Tanny, he was the next guy that came up to me and shook my hand right away. So it was cool to, have Caber do that. And it's just funny how that morphed into the success that we've had so far. And saying that we got to continue it.
But this is good. Now I can dispel the rumor that the reason you guys have chemistry is because you
Yeah.
did a couple of drills together over the summertime.
Yeah,
Basically
bang on.
hung out. Here's the last one, though, is you played a bunch of college kids. He doesn't strike me as the type that really turns it off in a summer skate. Did he try to line up a college kid?
No, I actually think Caber's a better NHL player than he is summer player.
Yeah.
Because then he can line up guys, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah. That's really
Yeah.
detrimental. Be like, what happened to you? You're like, I went to a summer skate and Jake McCabe was there and yeah, he drilled me in open
Yeah.
ice. It's like, oh, sorry, kid. What do you got? Biology next week? That's tough. Yeah. Good luck to you. Hey man, it was great getting to catch up. I know you're at the rink and trying to get home, so I appreciate you just jumping on for a few minutes and getting to catch up. Thanks for making time.
Yeah, no worries. Anytime. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Good luck the rest of the way.
All right.
Troy
Thank you.
Stecher,
Take
again,
care.
Maple Leafs defenseman. Great to chat.
Yeah, it was fun getting to talk to Troy. And now he's aware of Troy's Boys, the fastest growing fan club in all of Toronto. Subscribe to this podcast, leave 5 stars. Really helps the show. I'm going to be gone from the show for almost 2 weeks coming up here. One of my longer breaks ever. So if anything happens, follow me on Instagram at JD Bunkis, and I'll do something on there. But I'm going to be on pod hiatus. I don't care what happens. I'll be off. I'm not even bringing equipment. I'm leaving it here. I'm Magic Johnson. I ain't going to be here. Shake the head. No shot. Don't even try to get a hold of me. I will be gone. So, yeah, at JD Bunkis on Twitter and Instagram. Quick break. And, yeah, finally time to talk about the Raptors after a really good win. All right, we're back. It's Leafs game day, so you can score a Popeyes chicken sandwich for only $6. In classic or spicy, make it your new game day tradition. Get your $6 sandwich at a Popeyes near you. So, really good hoops night. Everybody rested. Basically, basketball has been off TV, other than that awesome Thunder or Wemby game. And I am calling it a Wemby game because, yeah, Spurs
are a very, very different team when they have Wemby. Nice stuff they've got. Like, I really like Castle. But we haven't had a lot of NBA. Raptors have been off for how many days now?
It was 6 days.
6 days. Okay. So 6 days, no Raptors. And frankly, like, quite a bit of pressure for this one facing the Heat. And that's been the case now for a few of these games. I've mentioned it a couple of times on the show. Like, hey, we've got a bit of fraud watch going on with you guys. Yo, you beat up a lot of bad teams. And now if you're going to lose to everybody that's halfway decent, the chatter's going to start. And things I really like from this game, to like Zach Lowe it, to bite from Zach Lowe. Things, what does he always do? 5 things I liked or 7 things I liked. Loved Barnes' energy, especially to close the basketball game. It's been put out there now by multiple people. I saw Blake Murphy tweet it, that Barnes now leads the NBA in block shots and clutch minutes. Mm-hmm. So close games, I think it's within 5 points, final 5 minutes.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the stat. Barnes is just making winning plays late in this game, all over the place. And one of the Raptors' biggest bugaboos as of late has been rebounding. They can't kill possessions by getting stops and just grabbing and squeezing the basketball, getting on the offensive glass at times to create second chance opportunities when they don't create a great shot. Barnes was everywhere. He did everything. Complete Swiss Army knife game for him. Didn't feel like he had to be front and center in terms of the point getting. It was way more of a Brandon Ingram game. He was awesome from 3, so was Quickly. They had some spectacular offensive moments in that game. I would say more so Brandon Ingram yet again. Kind of a good Brandon Ingram game where it didn't feel like it was too much of him. Just kind of right amount of Brandon Ingram in this one. But Barnes just winning plays, leadership plays, and then he's probably, I think a lot of people are going to have that video saved on his phone of him grabbing that last and one and doing the face. So really nice game for him. Again, Quickly and Shed, really nice playmaking in the game. Liked the way that both of them played. I will say, watching Davion Mitchell, it's tough knowing that Quickly makes, I think, $20 million more a year than Davion Mitchell. It's a little tough. But Quickly was better. You'd rather have Quickly in a vacuum, but you wouldn't rather have him for $20 million a season. That's for sure. That's not a thing. Like, Quickly makes almost as much as Brunson. So, yeah, I think there's a high standard of play that's expected there. Yeah, $23 million more than Davion Mitchell.
And that was supposed to be the Shed comp, right? We weren't supposed to be comparing Davion to Quickly, but
yeah, Davion's a good player, and I had no real issue with the move at the time, and by that I mean moving off of Davion Mitchell. I always had an issue with the Quickly contract. I never understood who they were bidding against, why it got to be such a huge number when the Knicks were balking at something around like over $20 million a season. Then all of a sudden the Raptors came out and gave him 32, and he went, whoa, like how? But whatever. He played well. Again, big shots from Ingram in this game. Really like that. Grady Dick, signs of life.
Confident Grady.
Play of the game for me from Grady Dick was not, there were 2. One was he misses a 3 and then he resets, finds himself, and then knocks down a 3. So I went, good, confident, shoot or shoot. But 2 was he gets blown by, I think it was Norm Powell, and he does the oldest trick in the book, just like gets blown by and then pokes the ball free and turns into a transition opportunity for the Raptors. And I went, nice, Grady, good. Like, you got to have crafty stuff like that because you're going to get attacked all the time. So having something like that in your bag is important. But probably the thing that I enjoyed the most from this game, if I'm just being fully transparent, was Colin Murray-Boyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was, I think, the game where I came away most impressed by him. He's had some good performances, but I'm not really expecting too much from the kid. He's a rookie. We all knew that there's a lot of development that needs to happen here on the offensive side of the ball. It actually kind of reminds me, not quite the same. They're not the same transition player. And Siakam obviously could run the floor like a demon. But CMB has a little bit of like, hey, he's in the dunker spot. That's supposed to kind of be his only thing. But he's actually got really nice playmaking. The rebounding was good. He had some awesome defensive plays, including a block on Bam Adebayo. Also, Grady Dick style from behind. Bam blows by him. He gets a huge block. I just thought that he looked like a confident player. I really liked the playmaking. And when you look at his game, part of me, when the Raptors drafted him, was a little frustrated given that they have trended towards taking these wing players. It's like the Project 6'9" thing where you go, look, he could be an amazing defensive player and he's got all these intangibles to his game. But then when you're asking him to shoot, can't do it. And there's too many guys on the team that can't shoot. You hope that comes with his game. But the defense last night was truly spectacular. Like a big reason why they limited the Heat defensively was CMB, the way that he played. So I really, really liked his game. I thought that he was awesome for them. So good stuff, good win. But the thing that I'm going to focus on is Michael Grange wrote an article that was up yesterday, which people should go read on Sportsnet. It's a really good piece outlining what you were sort of alluding to yesterday, Armen, which is the idea that Bobby Webster came into the season knowing that the roster will not be the same after the trade deadline and that we have entered trade season. And Grange agrees with you because he wrote the trade piece, and now there's some trade chatter. So basically he outlined, like, yeah, they could go get Anthony Davis, but it would have to be a deal where the price drops significantly on this player. And for the Mavericks to move off of him, I just don't understand what's in it for them if they're getting back a first-round pick and
just ripping the Band-Aid.
Well,
I think that's literally the most positive thing that will come for them.
But also, if you're the Raptors, you have to salary match, right? So if RJ Barrett goes out the door, who we're seeing is more important. By the way, also a good win without RJ Barrett for them to look that competent finally without him. But you're moving RJ out or one of Quickly and Pirtle. So I don't really see how adding AD and removing two of those guys all of a sudden is going to be making you a significantly better team. Like you're at your best, having Anthony Davis obviously should make you better than that. Yeah. But you have such a hole at point guard, or you have a hole again at backup center that it just doesn't really.
Who's like penetrating on that team? It doesn't downhill driving to the basket.
It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. And then he made the same case with Giannis, where he goes, "Does Giannis really going to come to the Raptors if they have to remove the pieces from their team that they would need to in order to acquire this guy? What is he returning to?" And I think that, yeah, there's a strong case for that too. I would argue, again, as I have, that if you're telling me that Scotty Barnes needs to be the focal piece of Giannis trade and you're going to upgrade that and he might stay, then it's a no-brainer for me. But as he's not going to remain with the Toronto Raptors, I don't know. Then there's like some Gafford stuff. I can't remember all the names. I don't want to spoil the piece entirely anyway, so people can go read it themselves and see the names. There's only one problem I have with the premise with the Raptors. If I'm them, I really don't want to be giving up my first round pick for a backup center. I'm sorry. It's just not where I want to live. It's a deep draft. It's a good draft. And I like Daniel Gafford. I think he's a very good player. But the idea that you would go out and get him with this team right now, given they're showing, as of this moment, a pretty limited ceiling. To say that the Raptors are anything better than upper mediocre in the Eastern Conference, to me, is a stretch. So moving off of draft capital for this team is no. Not doing first-round picks, not doing them right now.
Not desperate.
Yeah, it's too desperate. The premise, to me, has to involve somebody wants one of your young wing players. I don't think Ochai has a lot of value, and you saw that when he got traded from Utah to the Raptors, where he was just a throw-in. It didn't matter. They gave up, a late first-round pick, and they got back Kelly Olynyk and Ochai, and I can't remember the exact details of that trade, but it was not a steep price to get Ochai Agbaji. I would imagine that even if a team does want him, the price would be pretty minimal given his contract. So
Can we discuss the price that Grange put out for Gafford, JD?
What was it?
I just want your opinion. Ochai, Grady Dick, and Garrett Temple for Daniel Gafford.
Yeah, that's the kind of trade I would do.
Yeah, you're okay with that one?
Yes. The only problem
Even
I have.
I'm like,
no, I'm fine with that. That's okay. The only slight issue I have with it is the Raptors can't shoot, and Grady Dick can. He has not been overly effective from three this season. I think that he's hovering around 34, 35%. I don't look at a guy right now and say, when he's wide open, oh, bucket. Oh, that's in. Oh, Grady. Oh, they left Grady open. It's not And it should feel that way with Grady Dick.
Like
But-
JJ Redick felt.
Yes.
Like that kind of cloth.
I am not the biggest Jacoby Walter believer.
Yes, we are different in this.
He's a better defensive player, but there's a lot of what is it that you say you do here office space for me when I watch Jacoby Walter's game. And when it comes to the shooting, I don't know if it's ever going to get there. I think it's competent. I don't think it's ever going to be elite. I don't think it's ever going to be where it needs to be a regular rotation wing in the NBA, which is you got to knock down shots. So if I had my druthers, I would rather Jacoby Walter be in the trade than Grady Dick, especially since here's the thing. And so that conversation with Stecher, one of the enlightening parts about it, and this should be obvious to many, but it's what he said about minutes. Hey, you know what? When I get minutes, I'm able to play through my mistakes a little bit more and know that I can go out there and change whatever it is that I did wrong. When I'm limited to those minutes and I make a mistake, I'm pressing a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I like competition, right? Like I've been advocating for the Leafs power play to change it up forever and ever. And guess what? It's the same at practice. It's the usual suspects that are out there. You can guess it. You can close your eyes. You can guess who's on the Leafs first power play, even though they've been wildly ineffective. Competition works for certain guys. You really want the wings to be hungry and have to go out there and pay attention to detail and defend and do all those things. But to me, it seems, anyways, that Grady Dick is more effective when he's actually getting the regular minutes rather than, oh my God, this is my 1-3. Oh my God, this is my one defensive mistake. And boom, Darko's bringing me off to the bench. Just my impression watching it. Agbaji, the competition to me has worked out actually kind of well for him. Even though last night wasn't perfect, I don't like that when he like passes up a wide open three, I go, dude, that has to go. That has to fly. But with Grady, I don't like the minute restrictions. I want to see more of him. I think that they need what he brings more than what the other guys have to offer. In a vacuum, Agbaji is supposed to be sort of the more complete between all three. But you look at his salary for somebody in a trade, it probably has to go for a Gafford, period. And it also has to go in terms of the luxury tax. I would rather keep Grady Dick. But if you told me that you're going to get a backup center, like a competent one of Gafford's ilk, I would be willing to throw him into a trade. I don't want to lose the pick.
Quick Gafford thought. There's a graphic out by Ryan Mile on Twitter, on X, sorry. It shows that Gafford's actually one of the least improved players over last year. His game score, which calculates all of the statistics.
Sure, but how old is Gafford?
He's got to be heading towards 30.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I had to guess,
but
he's 29.
it's just like, I just feel like we've been clamoring him for so long almost here in this market.
But he does what they need. He protects the rim. He can rim run, and he blocks shots. And he rebounds. So I don't need improved. I don't need a lottery ticket player. I just need someone that Raps are struggling to rebound the basketball. They're not a good rebounding team. In fact, that is one of their biggest issues is you are building a team that is supposed to be stout defensively, but then you're not getting stops because you can't close possessions. So at some point, they're going to have to address that with more than Mamu, who is a nice piece, but ultimately is 6'8" or 6'9", and not a ferocious rebounder. And we've seen it
beside Claire Ware yesterday.
But like CMB and Scotty Barnes are rebounding the hell out of the basketball. They're trying to do their best, but ultimately they need another guy who's just a big man who can just elevate and grab a rebound. Anyway, we got to take a break. I'll talk about the Rockets later in the show because we have got Dallas Braden of the Baseball is Dead podcast next. Author of A Perfect Game and the excellent Baseball is Dead podcast. Bad Boy podcast. Boy, oh boy. Bad Boy podcast. It's Dallas Braden. What's up, buddy? How we doing?
JD, how's it going, brother?
I'm good, man. So yeah, you guys got the best PR ever for your pod by getting banned from the winter meetings.
I mean, that's one way to look at it. I would stop short of banned.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Sorry, not credited.
There might have been a vocal approach to how we let people know that we were not there. But I think we all understand it's just about relationships, and that's how business goes sometimes. But still, more than happy to be able to cover the winter meetings, even if it was from the comforts of
Yeah. You have the sign?
the Waldorf
Yeah.
Astoria
Yeah.
right here, because
Yeah.
it's just behind me, as I
Yeah.
said. So, but yeah, we had a good time, and it was look, it's an exciting time in the season, or the off season, I should say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moves being made. There's a lot of teams that are starting to reposition themselves. So, still fun nonetheless, whether you're boots on the ground or butt cheeks in the seat like mine were.
Yeah, listen, I like not going to delve too deep into it here, but I just will say what a stupid look for Major League Baseball. Like, again, you are a team's broadcaster, so the idea that you wouldn't be going is absolutely insane. But also, I look at your guys' pod, and if you want to talk about like online traffic, guys that are talking about the game that really seem to generate a different level of audience, I think the guys from Foul Territory do an excellent job, right? Like they bring in a ton of different people. I think that they move the conversation about the game. But you and Carabas, who's a good friend of the show as well, yeah, just like it's kind of everywhere. And when you guys are, pushing conversations around baseball and kind of involving every single fan base in a way, like baseball is such a like individual market sport at times, right? Like you can go to the ballpark and people go, I don't know anybody on the Angels outside of Mike Trout. And you guys do a good job of actually blowing that out into more of, I would say, an NBA, NFL style where you're focusing more on the league at large. And yeah, it's really good. So I was a little surprised by that, but I did have some good laughs at the way that you guys handled it. It was great. So congrats to you guys. So let's start with this. I had Dylan Cease on the show yesterday. Good guy, thoughtful guy.
Great dude.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
And he was talking to me about one of the reasons why he wanted to go to the Blue Jays was, I mean, the money helped. $200 million. They put that in front of you, and you're like, I like it here.
Always helps.
Yeah.
Always helps, Julie. Always helps.
I love $200 million land. But that they approached him with a plan to help him improve. And with Cease, we know he's got the two great pitches, but there's always been a conversation of like, hey, are you going to add another one? And he alluded to the fact that, yeah, the Blue Jays' plan for him in terms of how he's going to get the best out of himself was very attractive. And from your standpoint, as somebody who has pitched, who has been a starting pitcher, how difficult is it in your career to add another one?
I would say that it is not terribly difficult, and I would even go as far as to say it's not terribly difficult at all, especially today when you have the resources, the technology, the ability to quite literally slow things down and take a look at how you're holding the baseball, how the ball's coming off your hand, what sort of arm angle you're working with. And now we're talking about how you're impacting ball flight with grip changes and things of that nature. So I think in theory, it sounds difficult because you're thinking about how do I develop a pitch where I'm no longer throwing a pitch, but I'm pitching with the pitch, because those are two very different things. And I went through something very similar in my career where I was trying to develop a slider, develop a cutter, something that I could throw that went the other way because I could run the baseball. I had a great changeup. I had a screwball, but those are all things that move away from a right-hander. How do I keep the right-handers honest? By being able to crowd them inside or get in off the plate inside so that I can open up even more the outs that I'm looking to get away. So I think understanding that you do have the ability to dive in to what you're doing and what you're executing, that has never been more prevalent than it is today. And I think teams are served well. And it sounds like the Blue Jays have done a fantastic job in doing so, in being able to explain to potential players, this is what we see in you. This is how we have profiled you. This is how we think we can add to your arsenal, how you can deploy it. And this is why you will be successful in doing so. And it's really not a sales pitch of sorts. It's almost like an unveiling, if you will, of the Dylan Cease statue to Dylan Cease. He knows who he is. He wants to have an idea of how you can turn him into who he wants to become or continue to become. And I think that's one of the biggest impacts that an organization can have when it comes to the free agent market, is explaining to these guys how they see them and how they see them evolving and the role that the organization can play in that. So with his swing and miss capability already, we're now talking about offering opponents a different look, offering him a different weapon that he can deploy. And that's going to make him just that much more unpredictable And for a guy who takes the baseball 32, 33 times a year, year in and year out, if you can now start to impact his command to where we're not walking as many guys, the swing and miss is what it is, and maybe even ratchets up a notch. Now you're really starting to look at a $200 million guy, and you're starting to salivate because you understand what this could be.
So with him, he mentioned the reason why he had somewhat of a relationship with Gossman, like that he was the guy that he reached out to ask about the Blue Jays first, was that he had conversations about trying to emulate his splitter. So to your point about, hey, it's not that hard to learn a new pitch, I'm sure he's willing, right? That this guy didn't get a presentation from the Blue Jays where they went, we think you should add another pitch. And he went, wow. Yeah, like, you know what? That would be cool if I had more than two that I would rely upon. That's a great answer about the way they present it to you and the way that they see it, getting you outside of yourself, right? Outside of your own bubble, outside of what you got from your last team. I wonder if the greater question becomes, how difficult is it to trust that pitch in an actual game, in an actual situation? When you're someone like him especially, like they already gave you a bag. They give you $200 million. And it's based on what you've done already. You were this guy, and he's had a couple of seasons where he was been the best pitcher in all of baseball, right? Like that one year with the White Sox was out of this world. And last year the ERA went up, but there's also some underlying numbers that show that's a little bit higher than it probably should have been based on some of the defense. But being in an actual game and trusting that pitch, especially when it's a big spot, is that actually the thing that makes it the most difficult?
Yes, and that is why having the security that you do with the financial commitment that has been made to you, and this is something that all players are after. Excuse me, you would love to be able to get to a place in your career where when you go to spring training, you have the freedom to fail. And that's very different than understanding that failure is the inevitable part of the game, but understanding that you can go out there and in situations where I would typically go to this pitch or in an at bat in a sequence where I would typically unfold it in this manner, I'm going to take a completely different approach because I need to get a feel for how I'm behaving. I need to get a feel for what this pitch is doing. And if I throw it in certain situations, am I going to get the swings I'm looking for? If I don't, what do the takes look like? Because that can also give me the feedback. But ultimately, it's about being able to go out and use this pitch in real competition, because in the bullpen is one thing. In a live at bat scenario is another. In a simulated game is almost one layer above all of those. But now we're talking about real live game action where there's not going to be an opportunity to step out, look at the TrackMan, look at the Edgetronic and get a feel for what the ball was doing out of the hand. That is not available to us. I need to now get outs. And just short of trying to start to outstuff your opponent and really kind of bear down and throw your go-to, throw the wipeout slider and embarrass somebody, you now know, hey, if I'm going to get better, if this pitch is going to be of impact for me, I have to treat it as such. I have to take this opportunity right now, this game situation, and turn it into my, as I refer to it, turn it into my slab lab. And I have to be able to get honest feedback in the moment. So that is absolutely the last hurdle that needs to be cleared, because once you have the confidence to deploy this pitch, now you're going to start to see how you attack hitters and how hitters game plan for you. That's going to change. And with his ability to carry the fastball, his ability to spin the baseball, you now start to talk about his ability to drop this thing off the table if that's what he's trying to do. Yeah. That becomes a very, very different approach to trying to attack Dylan Cease from a hitter's perspective.
Well, and listen, you always the reason why you're a starting pitcher generally is because you have more offerings, right? Like, so for someone,
what you do, you have an opportunity, JD, to sort of pace yourself, but you've shown an aptitude to read the swings. You've shown an aptitude to pay attention to how you're getting the outs, as opposed to just pedal to the metal. I've got 6 outs worth of stuff to give you. And however that plays, it is what it is. If I get 6 outs, great. If I don't, and it's 4 and we got to go tap somebody else, then so be it. That is not the starting pitcher's approach. And I think it's been more than proven that Dylan Cease has the aptitude to figure those things out.
Yeah, he has the aptitude, but he also has the stuff. And with him, like you talk about that fastball in particular, and you go, when I think about pitchers in the game right now where they could lean on it a bit more with that reliever mentality, he'd be one of those guys.
So adding another pitch for him would be, I don't want to say crucial, but unbelievable in terms of his ceiling as a player. And in speaking to him, the guy seems like a dog. Like he's already talking about how he wants to give Toronto a break on this. Like he's making $200 million and he goes, I want them to feel like they have a deal. I'm focusing purely on baseball. I'm focusing purely on improvement. He doesn't even like talking about the Blue Jays because he goes, I wasn't on the team and I didn't accomplish anything with you guys. So coming on right now and doing interviews feels like I'm doing basically stolen valor. I go, okay, like you're a serious guy. You want to be better. But also, I got to think that adding another pitch in today's day and age with the traject machine makes it even more important.
Well, it's important because again, you are changing who you are, or you are evolving from who you were to who you are. And I always talk about creating layers of unpredictability. And that is one of the best things that I think a starting pitcher can do, especially if they are at times just a two-pitch pitcher or just a two-trick pony. And because that means that if you don't have one of those pitches on any given day, the hitters will start to eliminate those things.
Yep.
And now they're really locked in on what very well may be your best offering. But if they're looking for it, and if it doesn't have quite the finish, and it also is not being accompanied with something that helps get them off of your best pitch, well, that's a very, very tough row to hoe because they know what's coming. They got an idea of where the location is going to end up. And that's just a very tough way to make a living out there as a pitcher. If you don't have one of the two offerings and they're locked in on the other one you got, you're going to be backing up a lot of bases. So being able to alter not only the way that they're tracking the baseball, but alter the way that they're having conversations like, hey, he typically goes to this in this situation, but I didn't see that here. I saw this. And that's when you see the shots of the dugout where the boys are in there looking at the iPads going, what was that? I didn't see it. And now you've got Dylan Cease, or if you're Dylan Cease, you've got the opponent eating out of the palm of your hand.
So you guys did a great interview with Cody Ponce. You beat us to him. So congrats. Hurt me personally. But yeah, and it was one of those interviews too where you got everything so good that it was like I told my production team, I'm like, don't bother. They got it all. It's there. It's on Baseball is Dead. What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for a guy who had that much success internationally moving to the majors?
Believing that he can do this here.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. For me, that's really it, is because I think, and that gap is closing ever more. I mean, each and every day, it feels like, on top of every year, how we've seen the game evolve overseas, you do not have the discrepancy in talent that there once was. It used to be a very competitive, high level, AA, AAA comparison to what we're seeing here in the big leagues. And that's just not true, because you see all of these guys who are coming over, all of these guys who might be able to come over and have an impact and are having immediate impacts, a la Yamamoto, a la Sasaki, even though it took him a while to kind of figure things out and his impact came later, albeit on the game's biggest stage. It's very evident that gap is no longer the chasm it once was. So I think just having the confidence and just believing, I've been here before, I know that I can have success, I have refined who I am, and I have built up that armor. It's time for me to come back over and show them what I'm all about. And it's just believing that can happen, knowing that you do have the stuff to make that happen. And I think if you watch that interview with Cody, what you feel and what you get a sense of is, I think, the peace of mind that he has acquired in being able to go over and compete. I mean, look, they're not just handing out accolades to the likes of which he was rewarded with, right? We're talking about the equivalent of the Cy Young, the MVP, all wrapped up in one. Like, that's who that dude was over there. And that's who he thinks he can be over here. And the last thing that you have to do is just go out and take the mindset that you had over there and let it unfold and let that horse run on the mound here. And I say internationally because he will be in Canada, but when he comes back, back home stateside, it's all the same. This is the big leagues. And knowing that you can compete, that is going to be the best tool in his arsenal, I think, first and foremost, outside of the individual, the high character that he has, the competitive streak that you get a sense of. Like, this is a guy that I think we're all rooting for to be the dude he was overseas.
Well, yeah, I was rooting for him even further once I got to see the personality on your guys' show. Like, this is a guy who gets it, which I love, right? Is someone who is, he's telling that story about him getting the contract and the reaction that he has with him and his wife, and you go, man, please be good. Like, please be
Yeah,
good.
right?
I want this for you beyond the fact that I root for the Toronto Blue Jays. But I would think that with it, so sometimes there's a notion of you're worried about a guy getting paid because does he Anthony Rendon you, right? Like, does he just go and say, thank you? Like, we're
Right.
good here. Oh, it's guaranteed, baby. Like, I get my money no matter what. But with him, I'm kind of more optimistic given that he has a 3-year deal and that he did get the $30 million because he isn't coming over here on basically a speculative contract where he's playing for his supper every single night. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't
Right.
come back on a 1-year contract for $8 million where he's looking at it with the pressures that come with that internally. Like, he gets to settle back in North America knowing that he is financially secure and that he's going to be given opportunities to work through mistakes.
That is one of the biggest contributing factors to the mindset as
Yeah.
well for a guy. I always talk about runway, and whether that's via the long-term deal, whether that's via the financial commitment, it gives a player the sense of, I have a runway. And again, I'll go back to the fact that this game is built on inevitable failure, understanding that, knowing that you have the confidence from an organization to say, hey, we see what we like. We know what we like. We know what you're going to bring to the table. How do we make this work? How can we make this fit? And for him, having that number in his head, it was really in his wife's head,
Yeah.
having that number met, I think that right there almost solidifies for you, and it just reaffirms, I am worth this. I knew what I wanted. I had an idea of what I think I could get, and this was the number that they came to the table with the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
And to his point, he said, we don't need to have another conversation, because in terms of the bag is represented by opportunity, I believe, in Cody Ponce's scenario, and not necessarily the financial dollars or the commitment. It is the commitment to the human being. And that comes with, hey, we think we're pretty good right now. We think you can make us even better. And we feel like adding you to what we see as our championship window helps keep that window ajar all the more. What more could you want as a player?
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, that's it. That is the bag. That's what the bag represents, is a combination of the runway, the years, the commitment, but ultimately knowing and feeling like you have landed in a place that wants you, and you've landed in a place that you feel like you can contribute to. And the icing on the cake is how close the Blue Jays are to running it back and having sustained success at a championship level.
Yeah, that's going to be the big question this year is that a one-off, or is this who you are, right? Did you get hot at the right time, or is this what you're expecting as a fan moving forward? And they're spending like this is what you should expect moving forward, right? Because there's still Tucker and there's still Bichette out there. They're very much involved in those two guys. There's, I think, a lot of pressure on them to land one of those two guys, honestly, at this point. But yeah, given what they did to the starting rotation and even the money that they paid Rogers, right? It was like $37 million for a relief pitcher. You go, okay, that's the highest relief contract they've ever given out, Dallas. Like, this group has ever doled.
JD, I would be lying if I told you that some of my favorite moves of this offseason are centered around the Blue Jays, because immediately they went out and said, we know what we want. We know how we want to solidify ourselves. We know how we want to bolster this team, this room. We're going to go get starting pitching. We're going to go get guys who can get outs. We're going to reinforce that with bullpen help as well. And to your point about whether or not they feel like they can run it back, look, we all understand what kind of season that George Springer had. Incredible. A phenomenal year. Is that something that he can duplicate? Is that something that he can repeat? I think there are valid questions about that.
No doubt.
If Bo Bichette is not going to be a part of the future moving forward, how do you supplement that? Those are valid questions. But I think right away, to see this Blue Jays organization say, we're no longer going to stand idly by and let things kind of come to us and let the market dictate how we're going to approach things. We are going to impact the market. We'll get the ball rolling by locking guys up and by putting ourselves in a situation or in a position where we feel the most comfortable and confident in how we're going to move forward. So I think when you understood a few years ago where they were at in the pursuit of Shohei Ohtani, I think that sort of, in a good way, revealed their hand, right? It showed fans not only of the Blue Jays, but of baseball in general, that the Blue Jays can compete. The Blue Jays have a bag to pull from. And I think being able to wisely spend those dollars and allocate them in a way where you feel really good about what the future looks like, that's all a team ever wants. And I think the Blue Jays, for the most part, have nailed that. But it's understood that there's still a lot of offseason left, and there are still some key pieces out there that could make any team better.
This reference will probably go over your head because, you've had money for quite some time now, and I'm guessing that a lot of your friends, when you go to a restaurant, they're like, yeah, we're fine. But the Jays' approach to free agency reminds me of when you bear down and you decide to go with your friends to a really nice restaurant. And you say, like, we're here. We've got this opportunity to be, like, eating this food. And then you got the one buddy who decides to be like, I'm just going to get the burger. And you're like, you know that you're getting that because it's cheaper than the other items, and you don't want to spend for what you actually want. And the Blue Jays sat down and they were like, no, we're getting the fixins. We're getting the
Blue Jays said, give me we want the seafood tower.
That's
if
it.
You need to put the lava cake.
Correct.
Put the lava cake in
We will
now.
have the dessert menu. We will have the dessert menu, actually.
Lava cake?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Can I see the wine menu as well?
Yes.
Please. You know what? I don't even need to see it. Give me your best bottle.
That's right. They didn't
that's
go,
how you want
what's
it to
the
feel.
second cheapest bottle of wine, which is the normal, They didn't let the person pick for them. They chose. They sat down with a plan and they went, we want this wine, we want this as the starters, we want this as the main course. And then, yes, please give us the dessert menu, which, again, I love. They jumped the market for Cease. They went out aggressive with Cody Ponce. They made it to a point where he didn't feel as though there was a decision to be made that had already been made for him. And they bucked up money for Rogers. And depending on how you feel about that, whatever, they still paid a relief pitcher with a real consistent track record significant money to come play for the Toronto Blue Jays. So the pitching looks good. It looks really good. You're right. There's still some questions to be answered with the bats. Those will come. We'll see how that plays out and judge them when it actually does happen. But as of this moment, you look at this rotation: Cease, Gossman, Savage, Bieber, Ponce, Barrios, Lauer. First of all, just what do you think about that? But secondarily, is that too many guys?
Those are tasty options, and absolutely not, JD. I'm not sure what rock you're living on, bud.
Mm-hmm.
Is there ever too many arms? Can you ever have too many options? I think you look no further than the Los Angeles Dodgers, because this was a team that was stacked, right? Stacked with starting pitching options, stacked. And you had to use just about each and every one of them at some point in time, because unfortunately the injury bug does bite, and you hope that you're able to avoid it. You hope that you have a cure for it if it does latch onto you. And I think that's what adding depth does for you, right? And whether it's Barrios, who I think right now is probably slated in like a long relief role, if that's the case, all those things change. Those things change via production. Those things change via health, as I mentioned. But I mean, good Lord, it is a great crop to be able to pick from when you're looking at this rotation, because of what Savage has shown you, what you know that you can expect from Kevin Gossman, the fact that Bieber was able to bounce back and be as impactful as he was coming off surgery, and obviously the excitement surrounding Cody Ponce and the anticipation of him being able to carry over his performance from overseas up into the sixth. So the answer is no, there is not too many options. While you just listed 7, we talked about 7. You hope that there's even more that maybe potentially reveal themselves via prospects. And again, you're never done in terms of free agent market, in terms of being able to maybe work trades, because there's still some arms that are options out there. I know, a name like Michael King is getting volleyed about, and we're talking about whether or not it's the Orioles or the Red Sox or the Yankees, who are all three competing for each other. Those are all 3 teams that are in a division with the Toronto Blue Jays. So why not the Blue Jays as well? I don't know that there's been strong links there, but the idea is there is never too much depth. You can never have too much starting pitching, because you will inevitably need the majority of it.
I agree. My only pushback, I guess my only reservations as of this moment are, one, you're going to need that depth already, because they're talking about Shane Bieber being week to week, and it's December 16th, which I don't like that. I don't want to hear a guy's week to week when he's not throwing baseballs, and you're a couple of months away from having to report. So his health is absolutely going to be a question mark. You certainly need to have added arms, because Savage does need to prove that he can handle the workload of a starter over the course of an entire regular season. Yeah, I'm excited about Cody Ponce, but you got to see it, right? Like, you got to see it. He's going to get every opportunity.
Yep.
Everybody around the team has told me he's coming in to be a starter, but you still got to have it. The worry that I have is Barrios, because when you're talking about long relief or having an adjusted role, okay, depth is fine if you've got Eric Lauer, who's bought in, who does whatever you ask of him. They go, hey, Eric,
Right.
we need you to be like a one-inning relief guy coming in against lefties. Sure, no problem. Hey, Eric, we need you to be a starter. No problem. Hey, we need you to be a long man. I got it. I'll just do it. I'll do my job, and I'll do it quietly. Whatever it is you ask of me, I'm in. Barrios didn't get on the postseason roster and left his team during the World Series. And I brought this up with a bunch of different people, but the team has now come out and said, like, yeah, he's got some work to be done with the group and having to sell them on his buyback with the team. And so for you as a former player, I guess, do you have your doubts about a guy who bailed on you when he wasn't given the role that he wanted and now might have to step into something that is like this, where he's competing for a job, and if all the arms are healthy, he might not have a starting group? And then secondarily, if you're his teammate, how does he go about addressing this with the team and getting that kind of forgiveness from everybody where they move past it?
To answer your first question, how do you not have the doubt, or how do you not have questions about the commitment? Because you're supposed to understand that regardless of what role you play, you are here to help the team win. And that might sound as cliche gets, but what is your purpose? Why are you here? And it's to help however you can, to make an impact wherever you can. And if you are really after what I'd like to think the majority of these guys play the game for, which is the ring at the end of it all, if that's what you're after, if you need me to rub up baseballs, if you need me to hit fungo, if you need me to carry the number one's luggage so he doesn't strain his forearm on the way down from the airplane and up to the hotel, I will do all of that. How can I be of service to the greater good? That's the mindset that you want permeating throughout a clubhouse, because that means we're all pulling the rope in the same direction. You know, I used to write two things under my hat as a player: find a way and hold the rope. And the latter, hold the rope, means if my entire team was hanging over the edge of a cliff and they were on the other end of the rope, I have two options. I can let this rope go because it burns and it's heavy, and man, wouldn't that make me more comfortable? Or I can hold the rope. I can let it burn, but I know that there's weight to carry, and this is my weight to carry right now. So I'm going to dig in. I'm going to find a rock to lean on, and I'm going to hold this rope, and I'm going to let it burn until my hands bleed, until my hands fall off. And if I end up on the other side of the cliff with these boys, so be it. We're going down together, though. And it's not going to be because I did not do whatever it was that I could do to help. And I think to answer the second question, what can be done? Well, it's just going to be about putting the work in. And there's probably going to be an opportunity to mend some of those fences, whether it's via conversations during the off season, whether you find an opportunity to meet up with guys before you get to spring training. You probably want to take advantage of those opportunities should they reveal themselves. Or I think you would like to think that you create those opportunities by reaching out, saying, hey, man, I know things might have ended in a way where I may have left a bad taste. Here's what I was going through. Here was where my mind was at the time. And whether you see that as an excuse or not, I totally understand. I just want to be able to justify coming into the room this year with a desire to win. And I don't want you to look at that like it's a facade. So I need to sort of expose myself. I need to bare my soul to you, let you know where I was at mentally. Maybe there were some things going on that you weren't aware of. And as a teammate, here's my opportunity to make you aware of those things so that you have full confidence in me to hold the rope. If I'm the one at the top of the mountain that needs to be holding it, you need to know that I'm willing to hold it. You need to know that I'm willing to let it burn my hands. And I think that's the work that you have to do, on top of just showing up and really putting your money where your mouth is and going to work, you know, and showcasing the work ethic, and that you are still fully committed to not only being the best athlete and the best pitcher that you can be, but in turn being the best teammate you can be. You know, that's something that I always try to echo to young players and to amateur players as well. Little leaguers, JD, is it takes absolutely zero talent to be the best teammate you can be. It takes zero talent whatsoever. The back of your baseball card is unaffected by the way you pull for your guys, by the way you support them. And when we're talking about the professional ranks, that comes in the way of going to work and being a professional, doing it with class, right? Winning with pride, losing with class. How can I showcase my ability to do that? And I think that's probably some of the work that needs to be done.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I think that's an awesome message to preach to everybody, no matter what workplace that you're in. Like, it doesn't take any talent to be a great teammate. I'm not a believer of writing people off because they make mistakes, right? Like, if you're making the same mistake over and over and over again, that's when I start to check out. But for Barrios, overall, the character has been very high. He's a popular teammate, good dude, well-liked. You can absolutely come back from this. To me, it's that question of how do you trust it? And for me personally, it's not that I want to give up on the guy because I think that this mistake is so bad, like you can never come back from it. It's that it's two things. It's you got to trust him to be in that role throughout the entire season, but he's also blocking the potential return of a guy like Chris Bassett. You're the first call I made when the Blue Jays signed Chris Bassett. And you gave us the perfect scouting report. Exactly what we got from Chris Bassett. I had Shai Davidi on, who covers the team for the Blue Jays, a couple of weeks ago. He called Chris Bassett the guts of the team. Every Blue Jay that I spoke to, everybody around the team that I talked to throughout the course of the season, and that was the one through line. Having Bassett and having Max Scherzer be these veterans who cared, who were willing to do everything and anything possible to help the team win, but also who set this certain emotional tone that I think you only get with vets of those kinds of accolades, was an important piece of the dynamic of this room. And I'm genuinely concerned if they lose both those guys, who grabs that part of the rope. I know they've got vets. I know that they've got dogs. Like I said, I know Dylan Cease seems like a dog. I know Kevin Gossman is a dog and probably doesn't even get the respect in that regard that he probably deserves. But those two guys are special. Like, they want to win at the ping pong table. It's like they'll spend hours there trying to beat each other in ping pong because they're so competitive. But they have the right balance of knowing when to temper that with teammates and not push the buttons too far where they become exhausting, right? Because I'm sure you had teammates like that who it's like, yeah, they're competitive and you love that about them. But every once in a while, just, hey, man, give me a break. Like give me a morsel.
You got to be able to read the room. You have to know when to put your arm around guys. You have to know when to give them a swift kick, right? And I think that's part of being a veteran. That's part of understanding the culture and what sort of culture you're trying to create, what sort of culture you're trying to maintain. Those are the keys to keeping a room competitive, but also understanding that we're pushing each other, and at times we're going to have to pull each other. But by no means do you want to be dragging each other, because that's a very different feel. Yeah. And so I think for a guy like Bass, I mean, I know what sort of culture he came from, right? I know why he is the individual he is, and he's loyal almost to a fault at times, and that's the exact kind of character you want impacting your younger players, is a guy who is willing to go to bat for you quite literally in whatever role needing to be filled in the moment, because there is a bigger prize at stake here. He understands that. He knows that. And that's why I couldn't have been more excited, not only for him to join the group I know he was joining, but I was excited for you guys to get him, because I knew what was coming down the pipeline for you. And I'm so glad, just for the human being, because I've shared it how many, I love Bass, love the dude. And I wish him nothing but the best. He deserves every bit of success that he's had and that has continued due his way. And something else I'll say about, Barrios is, whether or not you feel the best physically, that can have a massive impact on how you move in space. Because take it from a guy, JD, who at a point in time in my career was just basically a professional rehabber. Like that's what I did. It was very tough for me to walk into the room and look my teammates in the eye, because why am I here? I'm quite literally taking up space for somebody else who could be impacting this team, who could be helping this team, who could be taking advantage of an opportunity to grow and get better. But I'm here. And what am I doing? I'm just in the way. So how do I get excited about showing up to the yard? That's a lot of mental gymnastics that I have to do to talk myself into why today is a great day. Today's a great day because I have an opportunity to physically get better and hopefully get that much closer to helping my team. Okay, that's great. You know who gets to have that conversation? Me. You know who I'm having that conversation with? Myself.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody else wants to hear that because they've got stuff to do. They have things that they need to tend to. They have a job to accomplish. They have tasks at hand, and they just simply don't have time to drag my carcass along with them. So it becomes difficult to think that you can have any sort of impact when you're not doing anything, when you feel like you are actually a negative detractor. And that is a tough place to live mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to compartmentalize that and still try to be a positive voice in the room is difficult at times. And so I think giving Jose grace is something that would be better served for everybody. And I think that would absolutely help soften his re-entry, if you will, if that's how we want to phrase it, with the rest of the room.
Yeah. They have a great clubhouse by all accounts. One of the best in all of baseball. And Buck Martinez has been around a long time. He said yesterday on MLB Network that it's the best locker room environment that he has ever seen. So for a guy that's a lifer like him to go out and make a statement like that tells you if there was ever a team that was going to be able to bring a guy back in the fold and do the right things by him, it's them. So I'm not really concerned about, I guess, that element of it. It just, yeah, man, I'm sour about not getting Chris Bassett back if that does go the way that it goes. I just think that that's a bigger loss than people realize. That there's a personality component, a competitiveness component, a effectiveness. You saw what he did in relief for them this year and how crucial he was during the postseason run. That I'll be bummed if the day that he signs and I get that news trickle through the feed of Chris Bassett has signed a 2-year deal with X, I'm gonna be hanging my head. My team just played in the World Series, so that's how it is.
Because it feels like part of the DNA has been scraped away, right?
Yeah, it does.
And I totally understand that. I'm sympathetic to that because I know how impactful a guy like him is, especially when you have a guy like Savage who could probably really be well served, and even a guy like Ponce who, sure, he's been here before and has made his own way in a different place and is coming back now. And when you're looking, I call them lighthouses. Right. I refer to my grandmother as our family's lighthouse, because when the seas get high, the storm starts bearing down your neck and it's cloudy, you can't see your hand in front of your face. Which way do we go? What do you look for? You look for the lighthouse. The lighthouse is going to show you the way. And that's what these guys represent. That's what a Chris Bassett represents. He's a lighthouse type of player.
You made it worse because you're right.
Sorry about it.
You're right. Hey, Dallas, I kept you for way too long. Thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. Love always getting to pick your brain. Thanks, man.
No, always. Thanks for thinking of me, JD. Anytime, brother.
Yeah, take care, dude. Dallas Braden of the Baseball is Dead podcast. And again, former Major League pitcher who had a perfect game. Yeah, that's the part I can't grapple with. I do. I think Barrios can come back. I think that he can be effective. I think that if he's your number 5 starter and he's pitching even parts of the season that he had last year, you're in a good spot. It's just that component is that you're choosing to go with someone, or you have to, whatever you want to look at it, with someone who is needs to be worked back into the fold versus a guy who was the fold. Ugh. Anyway, it's Maple Leafs game day. Score a Popeye's chicken sandwich for only $6 in classic or spicy. Make it your new game day tradition. Get your $6 chicken sandwich at a Popeye's near you. Subscribe to this podcast. Please leave 5 stars. Please leave a review. Reach out anytime on Twitter and Instagram at JD Bunkis. Quick break and we'll hit what we missed. Quickly, before we do what we missed, I'm just going to say what I keep saying about the NBA. Which is when you get an opportunity to watch the Nuggets play someone legit, which was what you got last night, Rockets, Nuggets 2.0, you got to stay up. You got to watch it. If you're a sports fan, it's truly a delight. These guys, the first time they met, it was for NBA Cup stakes, but so you thought maybe they were playing playoff style because of this. No, they're not. They're playing this way because they hate each other and because they are each other's measuring stick for the season. Oklahoma City, sure. Do you want to beat them? Absolutely. Will they play them tough? No question about it. But this is credit to the Spurs for winning that game against OKC, but the reality is that the contender belt is being fought between the Denver Nuggets and the Houston Rockets.
And last night was theater again. Perfect game. Goes to overtime. I'll say this. Shouldn't have gone to overtime. Rockets got jobbed by the officials, straight up. I cheer for Denver. I'm a huge Jokic fan. But, man, those two teams, they rock when they play each other. And that is just such a refreshing product. And, yes, maybe part of it is that these guys got to rest so much before this game, much like the Raptors, who gave one of their better performances of the season against Miami. But, boy, you got to watch Jokic. You just have to watch Jokic. I thought about this morning. If I had a list of players you have to watch in professional sports right now, like you get one ticket, who are you going to go see? Nikola Jokic is 1 for me. 2 is Josh Allen. 3 is Connor McDavid. That's the must pay to see athletes who are performing the way that they are right now. Jokic is out of his mind. 39 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists. Like, I don't even think Jokic played amazing by Jokic standards, and that was his stat line in that game against one of the best teams in the Western Conference and one of the best teams in the NBA. Also, if I'm being, probably don't need to add this, but I will anyway. It's hard to watch that game and think about the Raptors, which I did a couple of times, and go, what are they playing for? Like, what is the rest of the league? I know that's the NBA in general, and you have to think more about outside of ring culture, and I do. Like, I just appreciate games in the moment as they're happening often. But, yeah, watching the level that those two teams are at, knowing that they are a firm tier below what Oklahoma City can do, and then thinking about the rest of the league and especially what's going on in the Eastern Conference. Like, Boston played the Pistons yesterday, and I watched a chunk of that as well. And I'm looking at it going, okay, guys, like, thumbs up. Good game, Pistons. Who cares? The East is so irrelevant, so deeply irrelevant right now. It's crazy. Anyways, Armen, what did we miss?
Fred VanVleet
Yeah.
was on the Hello and Welcome podcast.
Yeah.
And he said something about Kawhi that we hadn't heard before. He said Kawhi, on the first day that he spoke to him in Toronto, Kawhi said, I don't know why they traded for me. I don't want to be here.
Amazing.
I'm not staying here.
Yeah, listen. The first day, Kawhi, this was why people, do you remember the photo where he looked like he was a hostage?
Oh, yeah, with Masai in the gym.
He was. Confirmed he was a hostage. There's that photo, and then there's Connor McDavid with the elderly couple that's like squeezing him into the middle at the airport as 2 of the funniest sports hostage photos of all time. Yeah, listen, I don't know. We only started to really delude ourselves with Kawhi once they won a championship, and when he was on the plane back to Toronto, and we did that day where we were following around with helicopters and going nuts in the moment, which I stand by. I think Toronto treated that appropriately, and that it was so fun. And yeah, was it disappointing? And like Jalen Rose tweeted that he thought that he was coming back. Like there was real, genuine excitement. And yeah, it turned out that Toronto was being used for leverage so that the Clippers could get Paul George. And
aspiration contracts.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like Kawhi got everything from that one. To me, the most interesting answer actually in the pod was about Fred's end with the Raptors and how he saw the different timelines being a problem while the organization didn't see it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And this show's my show, so I get to do what I get to personally, or I get to validate feelings that I had. I took a lot of crap for saying after that run, the Raptors needed to make significant trades. They lost to the Sixers in the first round. It wasn't a run. Barnes got hurt, if you remember. Fred didn't play well and was coming off of an injury. But there was a large portion of people that looked at that and said, Raps, 2 timelines is kind of working for them. And even without knowing everything that we learned afterwards, which was like Fred VanVleet going on the Old Man in the 3 podcast and saying things that he did at the time about the way they were playing, and then reports emanating about him and Scotty Barnes maybe not being the best of pals, that Scotty didn't exactly rub the vets the right way. It was so clear and obvious to me that they needed to trade Fred. They needed to trade Siakam. They needed to strip it down to the studs and build around Scotty Barnes and do what a lot of organizations need to. And the Raptors were coming off of a championship run, and so they had this idea of we can kind of recreate this. So to me, people always look back at 2020 as the year of what if the Raptors, after losing Kawhi Leonard, would have just stripped it down then and said, we're moving off of Marc Gasol, and we're moving off of Serge Ibaka, we're trading some of the older pieces to get back assets and build around Siakam and Norm and Fred and OG. That's not the what if to me, because 2020 was one of the most exciting seasons in Raptors history. They actually were sneaky close to being able to repeat as champions. Like, they went to the bubble. It kind of threw off their season, but they were an uber competitive team who pushed the Lakers in that bubble matchup. And had they got to a finals, would have absolutely been a tougher task for LA to beat than what the Heat ultimately represented with just Jimmy Butler on one leg with no teammates. That one I don't care about at all. That's not even a what if for me. They did the right thing. They ran it back. It was a fun season. It was a successful season. Those guys developed a lot. Great. Tough finish against the Boston Celtics for Siakam in particular, but I have not one reservation about that whatsoever. My biggest what if with the Raptors is what if they had to just recognize the right thing in the moment and decided to move off of the pieces and stop trying to marry the two timelines. And for Fred VanVleet to recognize it is telling that was the case. And there was also another moment in that pod where he's talking about how Masai viewed those guys as his children. And that's the feeling that I still have. Is Masai came with a lot of great attributes, way more in the positive ledger than in the negative ledger. But if there was one thing you could criticize him for, is that he moved off those guys too late because there was too much of an emotional attachment. And yeah, you want to have some humanity from your front office, right? Like, but Masai's best move was moving off of DeRozan and getting Kawhi, and that required a heavy amount of, not betrayal, that's too far, but that was ice cold, man. DeMar did pods for 3 years talking about how much that hurt him. He wrote a book. So them trying to do that really put them in the place that they are now, which is mediocrity, the thing that he never wanted to have. It was holding on to Siakam too long so he didn't net a huge return. It was holding on to Fred where you got nothing back for him. It was holding on to OG where you ended up flipping him for a couple of good pieces, but nothing that was insane. Like, you had to pay quickly a huge bag of money the following year. So, yeah, just tough. That was tough for me to relive.
What if Kawhi never went around telling everyone that he wanted to leave on day one? And did that impact him at the end? Because he's like, I went and told everyone I'm leaving here since day one. Now I'm going to go back on my word.
Nah.
Did that impact anything? Because it's like a pride thing. It's like, I told everyone I'm out of here. Now that I won, I'm going to stick around.
No, I think that athletes change their minds all the time, just like any other human being. And it's one of those things where you go, yeah, I know I said that, but things changed and things we won. It's like, I don't think that he would have returned and then they would have been like, you said you were leaving. And he's like, I know, I look like an idiot. Like, no, they won. That changes things. Anyway, subscribe to this pod. We'll see you tomorrow.